Welcome everybody to another game analysis from the St. Pauli Open. I'm playing a lot of interesting games, so I think it makes sense to make another one for this one. I played against Vadim Shishkin, who's a Grandmaster from the Ukraine. He has an elo of 2507, so quite a strong opponent this time. And I was playing with the white pieces. So let's see what happened. I played e4, c5. And he always goes for this classical variation we'll see in just a moment. He has like 300 games in the database with this position along with the black pieces. So he's quite an expert in this line. But of course this also allowed me to prepare extensively against this variation. So I played a Richter Rouser, which is bishop g5, now e6, queen d2, and he tried all kinds of stuff. Okay, a6, and here he played bishop d7, bishop e7, but just last year he played h6. And against me he did it again. And you really don't see h6 anymore on high level because it's considered to be very dangerous for black. So I was quite happy to see this move actually. So knight takes c6 is the critical move. B takes c6, now bishop f4. Forcing d5 and now queen e3. So this is all theory, and in many cases white can develop a very strong kingside attack, push his pawns forward, or even as in the game he has ideas to sacrifice a piece. Here black again has many choices: bishop e7, bishop b4, queen a5. I looked at all these moves and I was happy to see bishop b4 because this is really dangerous for black. So bishop e2, and now black can also play queen a5 here, but already the position is not easy, I would say, at this point already for black. So castle, e5, and here he surprised me with the move knight h7. The most played move here is knight d7 clear, but then already white is having some ideas. Queen g3. And now there's the threat bishop takes h6, black has to decide king h7 or king h8, but either way, white always has the idea to bring his rook, and there are always sacrifices on h6, and this is what I was talking about. White can a lot of times develop a very strong attack here. So he played knight h7. I looked at this, I remember I looked at this move very briefly, but I didn't remember how my line went here. So I just played h4. I thought that would be the move, but it wasn't. h4 is okay though, but the move I have in my database is knight e4, and this is actually even stronger. And now my line goes like a5, queen g3, king h8, and now h4. So maybe that's why I confused it, but there's this move h4 coming. And white is better here. Also, maybe I dare to play knight g5. Who knows? One point is that if black, for example, plays queen e7 here, white can play a move like c3, and the bishop doesn't really have a square to go. And he doesn't want to go to a5 because then the knight can go to d6 or c5, probably to d6. And if black takes, well, now I take here, and one problem for black is always that he has two bad pieces, the bishop and the knight. So this is quite comfortable for me. So with knight h7, black brought one more defending piece towards his king. So all these sacrifices on h6 are not as dangerous anymore, but as I said, on the other hand, the knight on h7 is completely out of play. So this is kind of the trade-off black did. So I played h4. Now there are ideas to bring the rook, to maybe sacrifice in the future, so I like my position here. He played quickly queen a5. And I replied with rook h3, which makes a lot of sense. The rook is very well placed on the third rank, not only attacking possibly, but also defending. And he played immediately bishop c5, so that meant he was possibly still prepared here. And that was quite an uncomfortable move to face. So my queen has to move, but where to move it? I play queen d2. And I really took too much time here to think about this move. Queen g3 would be the alternative, obviously. But I didn't like how my pieces were placed here on g3 and h3. Still, this might give white a little edge here. King b1, rook b8, bishop c1, keep everything solid and protected. And white is definitely more comfortable here. Maybe you can follow up with f4. Again, this knight in h7 is just horrible. I mean, it's defending a black king, but that's all it's doing really. So I play queen d2 to still have this idea to sacrifice on h6. And he played rook b8. And the time I was burning was really on d4. Because this seemed to be his idea. And here I planned knight b1, but actually the variation I planned is not that good, to be honest. I planned this, queen takes a2, and now bishop takes h6, but I overestimate my chances here. My attack is not that strong. He plays rook b8, b3, and I really spent a lot of time calculating this. Calculating if black takes, and queen a1, all this stuff. But it turns out black can, for example, do this. Queen a1, I saw this move, now bishop a3 is checkmate. But I want to play queen f4. Now check. Black can give these checks. King goes to d3. I thought my attack will just break through here with rook g3 and so on, but black can just play moves like rook b7. And really my attack is not that strong. For example, rook g3, simply f5. And black's just defending. And my king on d3 is quite misplaced. So fortunately for me, this didn't happen because after d4, knight b1, I would be worse. Well, not worse yet, but after bishop takes h6 is not a good idea. Instead, I should play knight e4 here. And then after queen takes a2, there's a strong move c4, which I didn't see. Now the point is, after d takes d3, knight takes d3, queen a5, now bishop takes h6 is a good sacrifice. And if black doesn't do that, but play with rook b8, then I can play queen c2. And well, my knight is quite nicely placed on e4, and I'm better here. Even though it's still complicated, obviously. So let's return. He played rook b8, also very sensible move to put the rook here. By the way, if black takes on f2, he doesn't really want to do this. I play bishop d3, push the bishop away, follow up with rook g3. There's a sacrifice in the air. Just gives white too much tempi. So black shouldn't do this. Rook b8. And here again, I was burning a lot of time thinking of bishop takes h6. And it was possible. It was possible, but I was a little bit too scared maybe. I play king b1, which is also fine. So bishop takes h6, there were a lot of variations to calculate, so I just want to give you a glimpse of what is possible here. Queen a3 is, let's start with this move. Isn't that a pretty move? But I have bishop b5 and I saw this move interrupting the b file. So by the way, just to make it clear, I cannot take because of checkmate. So I have to do something against the checkmate threat on b2. So I play bishop b5. Actually, black in the variation still continues. I actually didn't see this. Rook takes b5. Knight takes b5 and queen takes a2, but now I just return and my attack is strong enough here against the black king. So that's good for me. Another move I had to consider was bishop a3. So not the queen, but the bishop. Here I wanted to play knight a4, but in fact knight b5 is stronger. Here bishop takes b2, knight takes b2, queen takes a2. And now I want to play queen d4, but also miscalculate a little bit here. My idea was that if g takes h6, I want to play rook g3, king h8, and queen g4 now, threatening checkmate, but unfortunately black can take on b2 and then cover with queen takes e5. So that's not possible. Instead, I could play knight d3 here and that would be still better. But instead of this whole variation, after bishop a3, knight b5 is a good move. I also saw that move, but I wasn't too sure about bishop takes, queen takes, bishop takes b2. But looking at this position again, after bishop pair, all the dark squares are really weak. The knight is still very bad on h7. This is just a really good position for me, clearly better. So these two moves don't work. The reason why I didn't play it was that I got scared because I saw there was this intermediate move, queen b4, and I thought, well, then all these variations change again maybe. But actually queen b4 is not a problem. And just in case, I should also show what happens after g takes h6. Here my attack just is too strong. I give a check, I take on h6, rook g8 is forced, now bishop d3 is coming. Threatening checkmate here, so f5 is forced. Now I take an f6 and it's just too much. For example, let's say queen c7, and rook takes g8, king takes g8, and queen g6. And if king h8, f7, otherwise I'll just win back to peace on h7. So in all these variations I should always have enough play. But, well, I didn't see refutation. I just thought somehow I didn't feel like it. But actually a computer gives after bishop takes h6, f5. Very cool move, just play f5 and position remains unclear. I go back to e3, I've won a pawn, but black has defended. He has quite good compensation for the pawn. Position is quite unclear still. So, let's return to the game. I played king b1, just to take all these bishop a3, queen a3 ideas out of the position. Now I can always just play b3. And here he played a really good move, rook b7. Multi-purpose move. For one, defending on the 7th rank, and for the other, going out of this diagonal so black can play f6 or f5 at some point. So, and also maybe doubling on the b file with the rook. So very good move. Okay, and now I played bishop d3. I also just want to protect this pawn on f2 once for all. And maybe I said to myself, maybe I have some ideas again to sacrifice still. Maybe. And here he played f5, which was a little bit surprising to me. I thought he would play bishop a3 or bishop b4. Bishop b4 seemed like a very natural move. And here, one possible line would be rook g3, king h8, and now just take on h7, play queen d3, and repeat moves here with queen d2, threatening the sacrifice. Black just returns to h7, or he can actually still play on with queen b6, I think. Still really unclear, but black is by no means worse. I was also looking at something like bishop takes h7. If I don't play bishop takes h7, he might just play f5. And also, yeah, so if I play a move like, let's say g4 I was looking at, then he plays f5, and now bishop takes c3 is a threat. Before, of course, I always have this intermediate check on h7, so it doesn't help black to take on c3. But after g4, f5, he has this threat, so I don't have time to take on f5, and if I take on f6, now the knight comes back into play, and, well, there's all kinds of stuff, d4 even. No, this is not good. Yeah, so I was thinking about bishop takes h7 and g4, but black is also playing here, of course, c5 and so on, so I'm not sure if I would have done that. Black is definitely not worse here, and probably even better, because my attack is still maybe not fast enough. Okay, let's return to the game, f5, and I took en passant, and here I made a mistake, very surprising mistake. I'm not sure what he missed. He played knight takes f6. He has two moves, and it's getting really messy again, so let's have a look. Queen b4 was what I was expecting. The point is now, there's a checkmate on b2, so I have to play b3, and now black takes on f6. But the only problem with this move is that this pawn is hanging on a6 now. But black definitely has some compensation here. Bishop takes c8, rook takes c8, f3, take away a square on e4 and g4. But rook a8, black definitely has some compensation here. So that should be fine for black, even though objectively speaking maybe white has little edge. Objectively even better is e5 here, and I didn't calculate all these lines. I just thought there should be something working here for me. So So let's have a look. I should take on h7 here. I'm not sure I would have done that. I wanted to play bishop takes e5. And now bishop takes a3, h3 just can't work. F takes g7, rook takes f2, but queen takes h6. It's just too much here. Bishop f5. It's not surprising that this doesn't work. Queen takes c6. There's queen e8. It's just, there's too much going on here for black. It's winning for white. But instead, black can take with the knight on f6. Simply take back. And now I should take with my bishop on f6. If I play rook g3, black has knight g4. Very unfortunate for me. And black is doing very fine. So, excuse me. I will need to take with the bishop. Now black can take on the exchange on h3. I take back. Now there's rook takes f6. I still have this trick, which we will actually see in the game, knight takes d5. But black can play rook takes b2, which is just to show it. If queen takes d2, I have this intermediate check on f6. And of course this is very fine for me. But black has a counter trick, rook takes b2 and queen a3. And now he takes on d5, and black is better here against the white king. The weak white king, I should say. So instead of taking on e5, it's better to eliminate the knight on h7 and now take on e5. I was also looking at that. But once again, it's really crazy. For example, g takes f6 here is possible. Now bishop takes f6. Once again, this trick, knight takes d5, is saving me. Rook takes f6, knight takes d5. Look at this variation. Queen takes d2, knight takes f6, king g6, and I still don't take back the queen. I play rook g3 first, saving my rook. And I have this position where I have 3 pawns again and a rook against the 2 bishops. So this is better for white. But bishop takes h3 should be played by black here. Queen d3 check, king g8, and now queen takes h3. Rook e8, f4. That's just crazy variations, and computer says it's equal, which sounds like the natural outcome of all these lines, but of course very messy, very difficult to calculate. So I'm not surprised he didn't go for it, but I am surprised he didn't play queen b4, because knight takes f6 runs into knight takes d5, and I'm just clearly better here. And you know what's funny? I was looking at his games before my game, preparing, and he had a game where exactly this motive happened as well, and he lost the game as well. Oh, no, I told you guys the result, but I don't know what he overlooked. I really don't know. So the point is obviously, once again, after queen takes d2, I take on f6 with check, and after rook takes f6, I take with the bishop. And we have this endgame. Black takes on f2, but his pawn structure is just a mess, and also his king is maybe a little bit weaker. Here I have a choice between rook g3 simply to protect the pawn, or just to grab the pawn on a6. And then rook b8, bishop takes c8, rook takes, bishop e3. I saw this rook endgame, and in the worst case I would just do it. It's a pawn up. I don't have much risk here, obviously, so this is just a very good endgame. I was expecting this. He would go for this endgame. I didn't see this move queen d8 coming at all, honestly. I mean, you don't look at such moves really. But the move is not too bad, and I didn't react in the best way. So first of all, of course, I cannot take on f6, because after queen takes f6 there's a double threat. Checkmate, and the f4 bishop is hanging, so it doesn't work. But I had the choice between knight c3 and knight e3, and for some reason, maybe I just want to play the more surprising move, or I'm really not sure. I played knight e3, and it almost lost. It almost lost. There was just a very, very close way to save it for me. So I'm really not sure what I was thinking. I thought knight c3 could play knight d5, now hitting the bishop and the knight, and so I play bishop e4, 5, and I saw he would take on f2, but really it doesn't matter. He can have the pawn. I just play queen e1, and I only realized it later. And his pawn structure is a mess. My bishop is very strong on e5, and I have the threat queen e4, which is very unpleasant for him. So this is just really good for me. So yeah, I was annoyed with me during the game that I didn't do it. So my point was that after knight e3, my point was that if now knight d5, I play bishop e5 and the pawn on f2 is now protected. Okay, but well, black has some other options. So he played queen d4. The other move also possible was bishop d4. Here I wanted to play c3. Again, it's very messy. b3 is maybe even better. And then e5, now hitting both the bishop and the rook. But I have some counter tricks here in the position. Bishop takes e5, bishop takes e5, bishop c4 check, now hitting the queen on d8. So knight d5, and we have long force variation, queen takes d5, queen takes, bishop takes, and I win the rook on f7, and we have once again a similar endgame where I have the rook and 3 pawns against the 2 bishops. Not easy to play, but well, it should be better. Yeah, I should also mention that here e5 doesn't work because once again I have bishop c4 and the queen is hanging on d8. But he played queen d4, hitting both my bishop and mate, but I had knight c4, defending against both, and I thought here I would just follow with bishop e5 in the next move. And if he takes on f2, well, then I just have a very good endgame. But then I realized this is move knight e4, and I was getting really scared. I had not seen this move before when I was going for this variation, and I was just lucky it's all working out for me. Bishop takes e4, and now he had to make a choice which piece to take, but luckily enough both worked for me. If queen takes e4, first it looks like he's winning a piece because both pieces are attacked, but I have knight d6, and there's a very pretty line. So if he takes on d6, now I just take back with the bishop and I'm a pawn up. Very good position. So the critical line is queen takes f4, but here I take, and now I don't take the bishop because then my knight would be trapped on c8 after rook f8, but I take the rook on b7, and look at this, rook b3, bishop c8, rook d8, rook f8. Now it looks like he has saved himself, but not quite. The bishop is just very unfortunate here, and it's lost. And I saw this line and I thought, well, that's quite a pretty line. But unfortunately it didn't happen in the game. He played queen takes c4, and I was more concerned about this move but then I realized I have this move here, bishop e3, which really saved me. Obviously now if he takes on e3, I just take back and protect the bishop. So he plays bishop a3, bishop d4, now I attack the bishop. He takes on b2, and here also very important that I have to move rook b3. If I take on b2, queen takes e4, not sure about this position. I might be still a little bit better, but well, not too clear. But rook b3 is very nice. And now I just keep my nice bishop on e4 against his bad bishop, and once again his pawn structure is just terrible. So he took on d4, queen takes, and now he should go into the endgame. He played queen e2. He should go into this endgame, but it's really no fun. c5 is possible. I didn't see this move. If rook takes b3, a takes b3, rook takes f2, once again the bishop on c8 is a lost child. Rook d8 is coming, and the bishop is dropping. So instead black can play c5, now rook d6, rook d7, rook b d3. It's no fun. It's really no fun for black here. So very nice position for me. So he played queen e2, bishop f3, and now he blundered. He played e5, which is losing immediately. He has to play rook takes b3. By the way, rook takes f3 doesn't work with the idea g takes f3, rook d7. But of course I don't take back on f3, but I take on b7. And then just take on f3 in the next move. And a move like rook f4 also doesn't work because of checkmate. So he needs to play rook takes b3 and then go with the queen to b5, but once again this pawn structure is just killing black, so this is also clearly better for me. So let's see e5, and I also missed the immediate win, unfortunately. I played queen c5, still very good for me, but queen c3 would have finished the game immediately. The point is that now, yeah, it's very simple actually. I just saw he could take on f2, I didn't want to allow it, but now I just take on b7 and play queen b3 and just win the bishop. Sometimes chess can be very simple if you just calculate one move further and don't stop too early in your calculations. So I could have made my task much easier here. So I play queen c5. Now once again rook takes f3 doesn't work because of rook d8, and then I take back on f3 in the next move. So he has to take here. And well, I saw this and I thought, well, I'm just a pawn up, so I was already satisfied with this continuation. Queen takes c6. Once again he cannot take on f2 because of rook d8 and bishop d5. So he played bishop f5, and now I just went into the endgame. But still there's some technical problems still to solve, and I'm not happy about the way I did it here. Okay, bishop e2 I think is fine. b4. Now I played f3. Not sure about this move, but I think it's also fine. I want to fix this pawn on e5. And maybe attack with rook e1, bishop c4, and then slowly king b2, c3, something like this. Could also probably just start with king b2. He played e4, and here I went wrong. I played g4. I had not planned this move before, but then just seemed to be a good move, but it's actually not. I should just take on e4 and play rook d4 here, which was my original plan, and take on b4, and this should be winning. Of course, still you have to play precisely, but it should be winning. But then I saw this move g4 and I liked it. So e takes f3 of course doesn't work because of bishop c4, and I win the bishop. He played bishop g6, after which I'm winning, I think. Bishop e6 was the critical move, and then f takes e4, and now rook f4. And here it's really not clear, honestly. I looked at it briefly with the computer, but it's anything but clear. Because, well, all these pawns are just hanging on the fourth rank. So let's have a sample line here. Rook d4, bishop takes g4. Let's just go through the line here with the natural moves, but it's really close, if it wins at all. I'm not sure. So this is the sample line here, g3, rook d2, stopping a g-pawn, rook f6, e5, it's all fours, g2, king f2, rook g6, king g1. Now these bishops come off. Yeah, not sure what to think about this endgame. Really not sure, but in any case, maybe this is still winning, I'm not sure. But in any case, this would have made my task much more difficult, no doubt. So g4 was not a good move. He played bishop g6. Now f takes e4. I think again here rook f4 would have been a better move. Even though, well, I just played rook d4 probably. Yeah. So here, now I just play rook d4 and I win the pawn on b4. Everything is protected. My rook is very well placed on the fourth rank, and he could have resigned just here, honestly. But he decided to play on for a little bit. So let's go through the moves. Bishop b5, rook e7, rook takes b4, g5, I take. I centralize my rook again, bring the king, king b2, bishop d3. I wanted to make sure I have my king on b2 first before I play bishop d3, so now I can take back with the c pawn and he doesn't cut my king off the first rank. So yeah, I don't want to take with the rook here because that would lead to a passive position of my rook, so I didn't want to do this. But c takes d3 just works perfectly here, no doubt. So he played bishop f3, and now I just pushed the pawn. And c3, bishop d5, b5, rook a7. Of course you still have to do some work. You can't just play any moves, but it's not too difficult. Bishop c4, preventing rook a2, bishop f3, and now just bring the king. Bring the king, rook b1, bishop b3, and well, now the pawn is just running. So you play bishop e4, last trick, bishop c2 should not be allowed. So I just took the bishop and played b6, and he resigned because he can stop the pawn, but then his rook will be forever imprisoned on b8, and I have all the time in the world to push my pawn, and that's very easy. It's also nice that my bishop is protecting this pawn as well, so just complete domination here. So, quite an exciting struggle. I would say I'm satisfied again with my play, even though this one moment, knight c3 and knight e3 instead of knight c3 was bothering me, because I was just lucky that it all worked out the way it did. But overall, I think a pretty decent game. And now I'm on 4 out of 4, and well, let's see what happens in the next round. I hope you guys enjoyed the game, the analysis, and if you have any questions, if anything was unclear or too fast, I noticed I was a little bit fast this time because I just knew there were a lot of variations to show, and I don't want the video to go an hour or something like that. So just let me know in the comments and I'll check. Alright, see you, bye.